Hey guys, and welcome. Thank you for stopping by. I've always loved a bleak movie. The kind of movie that would make me question my existence, oftentimes hate my fellow human being, and explore the emotions that we normally try to repress. And the repression has its positives, as dwelling on the worst case scenario doesn't tend to drive us forward. Rather, it does the exact opposite. It makes us think of all the misfortunes, unfairness, and prevents us from forming a purpose because nothing really matters in the grand scheme of things anyway. But still, bleak content is necessary when we're surrounded by the constant instant gratification of quick TikToks, action packed movies, or rom coms, where everything always works out in the end. It's important to keep in mind that not having any disquiet in your mind leads to a lack of self awareness, a lack of understanding of the reality of things and how insignificant our pursuit of certain nature can be. Especially now, when comparison is at an all time high, and it's more crucial than ever to take a step back and to and think about your impact. Think about how long it's been since you've truly reflected on things, since you've connected with an idea or even intimately connected with another person. And that is why I love bleak movies, because they often pull us out of our daily lives and they chew us up, spit us out, and hopefully leave us changed, hopefully with a little more depth. Number 3, we need to talk about Kevin. Based on the book of the same name, written by Lionel Shriver, released in 2011, starring Tilda Swinton and Ezra Miller, We Need to Talk About Kevin is a movie about a teenager who murders his father, younger sister, and multiple people at his school. Except the act itself isn't the focus of the movie. Rather, it's a movie about why, but even that isn't really served to us on a silver platter. Throughout the movie, we follow our protagonist, Ava. Although it's no secret what her son, Kevin, gets up to from the beginning of the movie, we slowly learn the dynamics, and we ask ourselves, who's at fault? After all, we need to find someone to blame. It's very uncomfortable not having a definitive answer as to where exactly things went wrong and who bears the bigger chunk of responsibility. Due to her son's actions, Ava's life falls apart. She loses her job, her house becomes a target for vandalism, for people to take out their anger on her by destroying her property. People in her town blame her for everything that happened. After all, did she not see the signs? How did she not realize her son was planning something like this? We side with her, but we also start seeing glimpses of how she was as a mother. And let's just say she wasn't excited about motherhood. She was resentful that her life as she knew it had to end, that she couldn't bond with the child. It's fascinating seeing their dynamic, as we can see that the devil's in the details, that the interactions they had, although not all of them negative, were lacking in true connection. For example, while playing with the ball, we can see that Ava is trying her best to remain engaged, but it's not genuine. Her praise when Kevin's playing appropriately is inauthentic, robotic. When Kevin fails to play the correct way, Ava's reaction is more visceral. Her irritation and annoyance obvious. We learn the only way for Kevin to get any type of emotion out of his mother is to misbehave. Despite having a loving father, Kevin seems to be chasing reactivity from his mother. At least it seems their relationship is authentic, as his father seems to lack the capacity to understand deviance, hurt, or anything really that's not just surface level. Kevin seeks to punish her for the way he feels he was wronged, but also fails to accept any responsibility for himself and his development as a young adult. If you're interested in this topic, I would really recommend watching a Sue Klebold's TED Talk. She's the mother of one of the Columbine shooters. In the TED Talk, she talks about how she had no idea her son was going to commit the atrocious crime. The reactions to the presentation were extremely mixed, with many people saying that she was avoiding responsibility. I believe it's far more complex than that. I don't really agree with those people, as I think we tend to forget what we were like when we were 17 and 18 years old. Yes, there is the parental responsibility to check on your child and raise them to the best of your ability. But let's think about how many of us were keen to talk to our parents during our adolescent years, especially about things like anger, hatred, and depression. At a time when your ability to effectively communicate is very low, and your emotional intelligence and self-awareness, they haven't really developed yet. I just think those attacking Sue need to remember that even though our upbringing can be an explanation, it's not an excuse. Personal responsibility still needs to be taken into consideration.
Good afternoon, ma'am. I hope this isn't an inconvenient time.
Well, it is, actually.
Well, we just had a couple of quick questions for you.
What's this about?
Do you know where you're spending the afterlife?
Oh, yes, I do, as a matter of fact. I'm going straight to hell. Eternal damnation, a whole bit. Thank you for asking. Okay?
Duration. Number 2, detachment. Life is an ocean of chaos, and the realization that you are the one supposed to throw the buoy while struggling to stay afloat is devastating. Detachment is about the ugly reality of the undesirables. It shows that even though we can all agree that children and youth are the future, we know that in that statement, we're not referring to all of them. Some of them were doomed from the get-go, for one reason or another, whether it be overworked parents who let their kids raise themselves, the environment, which instead of stimulating kids in a positive way, dumbs our next generation down. This is not to say the kids are to blame. Their only fault is that they were born at this time and not another. Rather, it's the numbing of the mind that comes with being bombarded with constant entertainment, the disconnect, and lack of discourse, lack of hope, which in turn manifests itself in anger, losing yourself in pursuit of trying to keep everything together. In Detachment, Adrian Brody plays the role of a substitute teacher named Henry, who's assigned to teach at a difficult high school where the kids' scores are low and they act out in order to get a semblance of control or respect from their peers. A place where a positive attitude will be beaten out of you swiftly, as nobody expects you will amount to anything anyway, where your only hope is you, but pulling yourself out of a rut when all the cards are stacked against you seems impossible. Henry knows the chances of him being able to change the trajectory of the kids' lives is very low, but there's a flicker of belief. He doesn't sermonize about saving anyone, but he keeps showing up, lesson after lesson, as if presence itself were a radical act of faith. His very detachment becomes a shield for a fragile conviction that even in a collapsing system, a single steady witness can matter. That even in a nihilistic world, human connection means something. There is no happy ending, though. There are no flawless characters. At one point or another, everyone takes out their frustration on others in a never-ending cycle of trying to self-soothe through abuse. It's a very realistic portrayal of humans put in a difficult situation, trying to make the best out of it, and not doing a great job. How despite our best efforts, people will either learn the hard lessons and do the work to get themselves out of a rut that is their environment, upbringing, preconceived notions, and what they believe about themselves. Or they don't, and just repeat the same patterns until the end.
Our young men today are being told that women are whores, bitches, things to be screwed, beaten, shit on, and shamed. This is a marketing holocaust. 24 hours a day, for the rest of our lives, the powers that be are hard at work, dumbing us to death. So,
Number 1, Come and See. Without question, Come and See takes the cake for being the bleakest movie I have seen in a long time. I was hesitant to watch it, as I tend to find war movies distressing to watch. I've always found the senselessness of war quite difficult to grasp. How despite reading about the experiments which explain the phenomenon of groupthink, it's still hard to comprehend the extent to which people can change. The pain and suffering it causes is hard to put into words, and Come and See depicted it so perfectly. In the movie we follow a young man, Flor, who's quite excited to prove himself as a man and fight against the German occupation in his country of Belarus. He very quickly learns how misguided he was, as losses and barbarism do not let up. Personally, I found this movie much harder to watch than any horror movie. The director did an incredible job of not just showing action, but the mental toll war takes on people. One of my favorite, well, if you can even call it that, scenes took place when German soldiers came to a village in order to round people up and see if anyone was sheltering any partisans. One of the officers went to a house filled with multiple families. The residents immediately sat him down and provided him with everything they had to offer, while speaking to him with the highest regards. Although they knew what the officers are capable of and what they've done to others, they still had hope their fate would be different. That this group of soldiers, if treated with kindness and respect, would surely see them as people. If not equals or enemies, then perhaps at least human beings. It reminded me of that scene in *Inglourious Basterds*, but without the bravado. There was just something so plain and honest about that scene, and so many others. As the movie progresses, we see Flor bear witness to unimaginably cruel and sadistic behavior. The idea that you could develop a hatred so strong for another nation, to believe that they do not deserve to exist, to see them as subhuman to the extent where you rejoice and celebrate in watching them turn into ash is unfathomable. Although there isn't much gore in the movie, the violence we do see is all-consuming. Due to his experiences, Flor ages rapidly before our eyes, his face a mirror of what he's been through. I cannot recommend this movie enough. There's no glamorization, there's nothing romantic about war. It's authentic, it's ugly, and unrelenting. And that was my list of some of the bleakest movies that I've ever seen. If you have the capacity to deal with an existential crisis on top of your daily life, then watching these will definitely help you get there. Again, thank you so much for watching. And if you have any recommendations for me, please drop them down below. But I'll hopefully see you in the next one. Bye.